what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through and create a Word document with some specific elements, things that are kind of common to most NOAA publications, at least the publications that we see and handle in terms of submissions for the repository. We'll go over headings, nesting headings and structure. I'll insert some images, a table or two. I am going to show a handful of table things. Not everything to make a table compliant, but just a few things that would be helpful for people to start working on. I'm also going to insert an equation. We'll have footnotes, sort of the basic things that go into a document. I have also created, at the request of a number of you, I have also created a very generic and basic template for technical memorandum. It's not necessarily intended for everyone to use all the time. It's not necessarily a perfect document, but what I wanted to do was create something that everyone can use as a guide. So that will be posted with the recording and the transcript for this session. You are free to use it as you would like. And if you have any feedback on it, I'm always open to feedback. And I have talked to a couple of our partners, people who submit frequently to the repository. The Pacific Islands Fisheries Science Center has been kind enough to also provide me with their template that they use for their tech memos. And they've been gracious enough to allow me to post that. So that will be available as well. Their template is also 508 compliant as well. So with all of that, I'm going to get started, and if there are any problems, please, if there's any connection issues or anything, please put it in the chat, and I will try to monitor that as best I can. And so we'll just get started. I have a blank document here. When we are creating documents that are going to eventually be accessible, it's important to utilize the tools that Microsoft Office has included. These are what help translate a lot of those elements and tags into the PDF. So instead of creating a section heading using the tools up here in the font section, it's best to go right over to styles and start with headings. So I'm just going to start with heading 1. It's the best place to start, and this is going to be my abstract or my executive summary, whatever it may be in your document. When you select a heading, this one is at a certain font size, Cambria 14, bolded. It is blue. If you don't want that, you are able to modify that heading. If you right-click on the item, there's an option for modify. You can set the font size, the color, the style, everything. At the bottom, there are options for add to a quick style list, automatically update. You can create a template of all of these headings and their settings if you want to do that. All of those options are available to you. Once you do that, it's set. You don't have to worry about changing it every time. And then when you open a new document, as you begin to write your report or whatever it may be, all of that, all those style things will be in the document. And so I'm going to leave it just like this because this works for me. From here, I'm going to add in my text. I'm just going to drop in some nonsense text that I've saved here. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a page break, just so that we keep our sections divided. It makes adding in page numbers after the fact a little bit easier. It also will help with the general structure of the document, which in turn will help with creating bookmarks and having bookmarks transfer from the document structure directly into Adobe, so that when we convert this to a PDF, the bookmarks will be pulled from the document structure, which means we won't have to go in and add them manually. So it'll ultimately save time. So I'm going to add in a page break. And I'm going to add in, I'm going to go back to the home, and I'm going to add in another heading, and this will be, I'm just going to do heading 1. But I'm going to divide this into multiple sections. I'm going to add a subheading. And this is where a lot of you have asked me about an error in Adobe where it mentions headings and it comes up with nesting problems or something like that. This is one aspect of that will help with this. So I have my main heading 1, but I'm going to have 2 subsections in here. So, excuse me, I'm going to have 2 subsections under this heading. Since this is heading 1, I'm going to go to heading 2 and put in my information, whatever the title is going to be, right? Again, I will add in some text. So now I have my nested headings. I have heading 1, and then I have subheading 1. I had another question come in, people asking about lists and how to get Adobe to tag a list appropriately. You have to use the bullet tools or the listing tools in Word to have it transfer into those L body, L header, and everything tags that are in Adobe. So I'm just going to create a basic bulleted list here and drop in a handful of things. This will mean that when it converts over into Adobe, it will be tagged as an actual list. I'll drop in just some more random text, just so we can have a sort of pseudo, oops, sorry about that, pseudo document looking thing here. And then I'm going to come down here, and this is my section, my subsection 1. I'm going to add in another subsection, so I'll go back up to heading 2 because that's what I used for my subheading, and we'll add that in. Again, I will add in more text just for appearances. And now what I'd like to do is I'm going to insert an image. If you go up to Insert, Picture, I have a couple images here I'm going to insert. Now that I have the image in here, it's pretty large, but I'm going to leave it just how it is. If you right-click on the image, there's the option to insert your caption. I'm just going to leave it as figure 1, and I'm going to do ship and leave the label as a figure. I prefer to have, for my figures, the caption below the item. It doesn't matter, either way is fine. When you click OK, it automatically adds it in there. If I right click on the item again, if you go to Format Picture, at the very bottom on the left hand side, there's the option for alt text. You can put in your alternative text, close it out. Now that I've put that alternative text in, it will convert when I convert the document to PDF. So since the alternative text has been done in Word, it should always convert over into PDF. Should always. I am going to put that caveat in there. PDF sometimes will do funny things and will be wonky, and it will not always convert over. In my experience and in all of my testing, it has worked thus far. So now that I have inserted this image, I'm going to just put in, again, a little bit more random text. And now I'm going to do another section. So since this is a whole new section and not a subsection, I'm going to go back to heading 1 because this is the same sort of like chapter level or main section level. So this will be, excuse me, heading 2. Put in my random text, and then I am going to add in a table. So to insert my table, I'm going to go up to Insert, Table. I'm going to draw a table, and I'm going to put in just info here. There's just going to be random information in all of these tabs. Right. So I have my table here, and this if you were to copy and paste in a table, which I'll do that in just a minute, all the things from this point forward will apply to either copy and pasted tables or this one that I've created or drawn in Word. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to set my header row. This is a error that comes up kind of frequently in PDF, especially with tables. If you, highlight your header row, which will be this one. If you go up to Table Tools and go to Layout, there is an option for Repeat Header Rows. If you click on this, what it does is it sets this row as your header row. There's another way to do this. You can right-click on it on the table and go to Table Properties. If you go under Table Properties, if you go to Row, there's 2 options. You can see here, allow row to break across pages and repeat as header row at the top of each page. If you repeat as a header row at the top of each page, the highlighted information will become your header row. And according to most 508 and accessibility guidelines, it says that it is a best practice to not allow a row to break across pages. What happens with that is there becomes issues with reading order, and it doesn't follow the proper sort of flow of the table if you allow a row to break across pages. So when you are setting up your table, be sure to take that out of your table properties. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to right click on the table again on the little table tool here. And I'm going to actually go into back into table properties. I'm going to go to alt text, and this is where you can put in a description. This is where I'd recommend you put in some sort of table summary, table information, something along those lines. I'm going to click OK. I also would like to add I'd like to add a caption for my table. So what I'm going to do is go to References, and I'm going to click on under Captions, Insert Caption. This is not a this is caption 2, except it's not for a figure. So I'm going to go to Label and change it to Table, and then I'm just going to put in whatever I want to title the table. I have it set under my settings for putting the position of captions for tables above the item. So that's where it's going to put this, and in goes my caption. So now I have my table, excuse me, my table captions above, my figure captions below, just for consistency throughout the document. Now that I have my table in there, again, I will put in some text, and then we're going to move on to inserting an equation. So here's some additional text. We will pretend that says something about an equation. And I'm going to insert an equation now. If you go to Insert again, there's the option for equation. I am just going to pick whatever one of these equations here, because I am not a mathematician. It will insert the equation for you. You can, if you want to, drop in your own, copy and paste, and drop the equation right into the box. You can create it. There is an option to insert a new equation where you can type your equation information in there. So now that I have my equation in there, what will happen in theory when we convert this to a PDF is the equation will excuse me, be tagged as an equation in Adobe. So in addition to this equation, I'm also going to come up here, and just to make sure everyone knows how to do this, although I think everyone does, I am going to insert a footnote. Just right here, if you go to under References, Footnotes, there's the option for Insert Footnote. It'll bring up the information there. It'll put in the superscript for that. You can drop in whatever your information is here, and then continue on with your document. I'm certain most of you know how to do that, but just for due diligence, we'll add it in there. I also am going to insert a citation. What I've done is I've already added in my citation information into Word. So you can select from the list of items that are already in your document, or you can always add a new source. If you add a new source, it'll bring up all this information. You can select the type of document, fill out all your information, and then it's in there. We will use this placeholder for now. So then you have your citation here, or your in-text citation, excuse me. So I am going to go back to home. I'm going to insert yet another heading, a new section. And I'm going to insert, just for good measure, one more image, just so we're all on the same page. So insert picture. I'm going to put in a picture of Goes. If you right click on it, you can insert a caption. Again, since I just did a table, it flipped it over to table. This is not a table. This is going to be a figure. I want it below. And then if I right click on here and do format picture, at the very bottom here, there's alt text. I'm going to put in the alt text of what this is. I think this is Goes are before it was launched. From here, what I am going to do is I am going to go into, so now I have two images. I have a table. I would really like to insert at the beginning of my document a list of figures, a list of tables, and a table of contents. So I'm going to go up to Insert, and what I'd like to do is insert a blank page, which it inserted one above. And if I go over to References, there's the option for Table of Contents. If you insert your table of contents this way, it will also ensure that the document links to all of those sections appropriately. It will provide a link to all of those sections, which should transfer when you convert it into Adobe. Additionally, sometimes bookmarks will pull from a table of contents as well. So if we do it this way, we can make sure all of our bookmarks in Adobe are accurate. So I'm just going to do this basic automatic table. And now I have a table. It shows each of, and it pulled each of my headings, including my subheadings. If you want to change the style, you can go up here and change it. Update table. If you click on, update table, it will automatically update either just the page numbers or the entire table. So if I add something additional from this point forward, I can always come back up to my table of contents and it'll automatically update. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to insert another blank page down here, and I just did what I shouldn't have done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a list of tables. So again, this is a new section. I'm going to go back up to my main section heading, which is heading 1, and do a list of tables. If you go to References, there is the option to insert table of figures. If you click on this, you get the option, this dialog box. Down here at the bottom under General, there's Formats from Template, which is fine here. You can change the format and of everything, and your caption labels. So either figure, equation, tables. Since I selected list of tables, I'm going to do table and click OK. It'll automatically populate this. I'm going to do the same thing again I'm going to insert a blank page. I'm going to go to references, and in here, excuse me, I'm going to go back here, put in my heading, and do my list of figures. Now I'm going to go to references, references, insert table of figures, and here under caption label, I'm going to go with figure. Click OK. Now my two figures have shown up, the one that I put a title in and the one I didn't. And now you have two additional pages which are not reflected in my table of contents. So if I come up to my table of contents, update table, I want to update the entire table, not just the page numbers. It adds in those two items for me. If I scroll way down to the end of my document, I am going to insert a bibliography. So under references, if you go to the citations and bibliography section, I'm going to insert a bibliography, which I should have done on a new page. Here's my page break, and there's my bibliography. But again, my bibliography is not listed in my table of contents. If I go up to update table, entire table, now it is. So now that I have done all of that, what I'm going to do is a super quick check in Word for accessibility. And before I do that, let me check the chat real quick and see if there's anything. Okay, I don't see anything right now. So I'm going to check the accessibility in Word. If you go to File, and I will say that currently in the library, we have Office 2010. We are slotted to get the new version, so some of these functions might be slightly different with the newer versions. As we get the newer version, I will update all this information for you, but right now, what the library has is 2010. So if you go to File, under Info, there's the option for Prepare for Sharing. If you go to Check for Issues, and then Check Accessibility. If you click on that, it will prompt you with the accessibility checker, and as you can see here, there are no accessibility issues found, which is great. I do also want to point out when we are checking for Section 508 for the repository and for documents that are submitted to us, we do always check for document properties like title. From File, you can, and if you go to File, Info, and then Properties, and go to Advanced Properties, you can put in title information here. This will transfer over into Adobe. However, I have run into the past few times I've done this. If you check the document properties manually, the document title will be in the PDF. But when you run the accessibility checker, it says that the title failed. When we are checking for accessibility, we check both places. If it fails in the checker, but when we check it manually under document properties and the title is there, it's fine. We will not kick it back to you for that. I'm not sure why that is happening. That's something I'm still working on. But if you put in your, under properties in Word, if you put the title in, it will transfer over to the document properties. You can also put in author information. Again, we only check for title and the language. And you can see it actually changes that info here. So I'm going to actually go back to my document. Again, you can see that the accessibility checker, no problems are found. So what I'm going to do, and we're going to hope this works like it did earlier, I am going to save this document as a PDF. Sure. And then I'm going to save it as a PDF as well. And then I'm going to run an accessibility check on that. Here's the PDF. And I'm going to pause for a second because I see there might possibly things. So I see a couple people have made some comments to the entire audience I think you can all probably see them on my screen here. Don Collins has mentioned that some of the functions are placed differently and the dialog boxes look a little bit differently in the newer versions. Again, once we here in the library have access to those newer versions, I will redo a lot of this for you. But in general, the principle and the process should be really similar to that, or to what I've just gone through. Again, if there are questions, and it looks like people are putting questions in the question box, which I appreciate, I will get back to those. I can't access them currently from here, so I will get back to you with any of those. So now that I have converted this to a PDF, we are going to run our accessibility check, and I'm going to hope and pray that it worked out how it did earlier. When I run accessibility checks, I check all things, even the things that we don't focus on, like tables and headings and that sort of stuff. I run everything. I want to see exactly what's wrong with my document. And as you can see, there's stuff wrong with my document. If you go to, so we'll just start right at the top. Document, 3 issues: logical reading order, which we expected, which we usually expect; color contrast, again, normally we expect those. Those are manual checks. And you will see here title. The title has failed. What I'm going to do though is show you, if I come over here, right click on the document, check document properties, my title is in there. This is how we check for document properties. This is where we check for the title. So even though I have this X here in title, it is showing up in my properties. This is what we're focused on. So this would all pass. Here, I see under tables I have an issue, but notice that I don't have a problem with table headers or regularity, just summary. Again, we don't require table summaries. It's always a good practice to add them in, but we don't require it. Other than that, it looks like everything else is fine with my document and would be accepted for the repository, except I'm going to check my bookmarks, which you can see all of my bookmarks are here. They were transferred over from the headings and the table of contents. So this document in its form, we'll pretend it has a title page, would be something we would accept for the repository. So what I have done in addition to this is I have created a NOAA Tech Memo template. I have gotten some feedback from some people, and I'm sorry, I'm going to just check over here because I keep seeing some notices pop up. Oh yes, Jacqueline is correct. Some of these things, if you have an older version of Word, like older than 2010, some of the features are not available. A lot of the accessibility things have been integrated with the newer versions of Microsoft Office. If you have the newer versions, 13 and 16, a lot of these functions are actually much easier to do and require fewer steps. So again, I will try to keep up with all of that as we get the newer versions of things. So again, this is the Tech Memo template that I have created. This will be posted on the Section 508 subject guide. People are free to take this, do whatever you would like with it. I'm just going to scroll through and show you a couple of the highlights. On here, I have included the information for, or a spot for where DOIs would go, or where we in the library typically put them when we are assigning DOIs. We have a main cover page. We have a title page here. Table of contents. Again, it's set up the same way as the other one. So as if you take this and just edit the information in it, when you update the table, it will update with all the information that you had entered. Again, list of tables, list of figures, abstract. This one's a little more wordy. What I have done is in sections, certain sections around specific elements, if you come across any orange text, which I know is not necessarily 508 compliant, if you come across any orange text, these are specific instructions, not the lorem ipsum blah, blah, blah nonsense. They're actual words that you should read. They are text that explains what I did, best practices for how to handle specific elements, such as how I inserted this figure, how I added the caption, and the alternative text for this image. Here you can see I added in a table here, more orange text, which talks about tables, how to set the header rows, how to add alternative text for your tables. This one actually covers multiple pages, and it explains in the orange text how to do that. I have multiple different heading levels, a couple different styles of tables. The style of the table should not impact the functionality of the table, and setting header rows, alt text, all of those things should work the same regardless of the style of the table. I've added in an ordered list. I have subheadings available here. Yet another image, a footnote. Again, more orange text that talks about inserting equations. This one equation has a footnote attached to it. Another image, more tables. This is a little more detailed. I tried to provide a bunch of examples within this tech memo template, and then a basic works cited page. This does have page numbering. The document I just created did not. I figured most people know how to add page numbering to their materials. So this will be available. If you have any comments on it, I always welcome them. I see a bunch of things over here, so I'm going to check this real quick. Sorry, there's a ton of things in here, so I will probably have to get back to people on a lot of this. If you have comments on it, please feel free to give them, pass them along. If you or your office has a tech memo template or any sort of publication template that you are using that is 508 compliant or would like to make 508 compliant, I would be happy to take a look at it. If it is compliant and you're willing to share it with other people and would allow me to post it on our subject guide, that would be fantastic. I think it is important that we share the resources we have amongst all of us, because we are all in the same boat. I am by no means an expert on this. This is all things I have figured out on my own. This is how I have gotten things to work for how I have been able to make documents work and convert and have all of the accessibility elements in the PDFs that we are requiring currently, plus a few additional like tables and headings and nesting and things of that nature. So I guess it didn't take me a full hour to go through everything. I know there are a ton of questions. If you put them in the question panel, they will be recorded. I will be able to get back to everyone. Let me check one more time and see if there's something quickly I can oh, the tech memo template will be, I'm going to post it on the Section 508 LibGuide under the Section 508 Brown Bag Seminars tab. It is not here yet, but there will be another section for this particular brown bag with the recording and the transcript, and then I will put the tech memo template there. I am also going to include, as I mentioned earlier, PIFSC was kind enough to allow me to also provide access to their template that they utilize. I think it's a really great template. It has similar elements to the one I showed. There's this, more specific to their needs, but I think it's a really good tool and example for people to use. What else? I see there's a bunch of comments of things other people have had success with. What I think I will do is I will compile a bunch of these and include them in the same section with all this information. If other people have any tips, tricks that they want to share, please let me know. I'm happy to put those up. I am happy to share them widely. This is, I'd like for these workshops and all these brown bags that we're doing for 508 to be more of a collaborative sort of thing, to share tricks and tips and things that we have all learned as we're working our way through this, so that we can all learn from each other to make sure we're providing the access that we need to provide. With that, I am probably going to stop because I think I've gone over everything. Again, I'm going to let the recording go just a little bit longer to give people time to put in any more questions, any more comments. I'm going to stay on the line just for a few minutes here and see if I can address some of the things that are in the chat. So I might go silent for a minute. I am going to leave up the LibGuide here. And like I said, by tomorrow, there will be a new section with today's information and those templates available. And as always, feel free to email me or call the library. There are a number of us here who can assist you. And hopefully everyone found this helpful. In preparing for it, I learned a lot of things. So hopefully I was able to help you all with that as well. So thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time.